Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. You know very well about Unacademy. This is India's largest and the best online education platform. You might be well aware. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also ask me the question, what are all the benefits I'm likely to get once I enroll yourself in Unacademy? If that's going to be your question, ladies and gentlemen, you got, daily live classes. You can chat with your educator. You can engage in all-round productive discussions. And you can also ask all your genuine doubts and participate in the answer polls. All these things you can do when the session's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, not only that, we've got structured courses here, which is completely based on UPSC Civil Service examination pattern and syllabus as well. So that you never get deviated from the expected framework. We save your time and energy. You stay on track. Ladies and gentlemen, one particular point we are keep on emphasizing, you might be well aware, what is that? It's not knowing the stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff, because delivery matters. We've got a mechanism to evaluate your preparation in terms of various stages by conducting regular mock tests, and also that even the quiz programs, you get a detailed analysis, a report based on your performance. You come to know where you are strong, where you are weak. Ladies and gentlemen, once you enroll yourself in Unacademy, you got unlimited access for more than 1 million videos, of course, whatever may be your electronic device. Whether it is mobile phone, laptop, desktop, ladies and gentlemen, you can learn from anywhere, anytime, irrespective of your electronic device. What you have to do, please download Unacademy learning app immediately. Whether it is Android or iOS, ladies and gentlemen, once you download, you're ready to access all those benefits. Yes. Who is this interacting with you? Of course, this is Success Sampath from Chennai. I've got unique experience, of course, that you might be well aware already. Got exposed to the fields of engineering, management, and legal education with 25 years of experience in the field of coaching, especially shaping the careers of civil service aspirants. Ladies and gentlemen, with my team, I could witness the humble results. Of course, 250 plus results. All my kids are working in different parts of India as IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, you might be aware, and some of them in abroad as well. Part of Union External Affairs Ministry, you might be aware. Yes, you can ask me, what's your vision, sir? If that's going to be your question, ladies and gentlemen, to simplify the complexity and to be part of the solution. To begin with, of course, that by embracing Indian use and providing career solution, later to embrace the global community. Fortunately, this particular vision of mine is completely in alignment with Unacademy's vision. We are working together to shape you so that you become officer or leader in your own capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, together we are building communities. You can also reach me through my ID, the part of Telegram, of course, Unacademy_Sampath, or you can watch my lot of videos already available on the part of Unacademy YouTube channel. You might be aware, whether it is, the popular and highly scoring optional subject, sociology. Even our discussion is going to be centered around that particular optional subject today, see sociology, and also ethics and integrity. Even the essay paper, and topics belonging to, you might be aware, the international relations. You please watch all those videos and get benefited. Not only that, having downloaded Unacademy learning app, ladies and gentlemen, you might be well aware, you can also watch a lot of my live videos there. And also, if you're already a subscriber, you can go back and watch my previous videos also there. And several questions we discussed, part of prelims, MCQs, last 5-year questions, that several questions came. We are getting fantastic feedback. That encouraged us, that incentivized us, that rather we started discussing questions belonging to mains also, even cutting across variety of segments of GS. You please watch those videos. Not only that, most of the the topics what we discussed, part of ethics and integrity, came in the recent mains also. You please go through those videos. You can that understand. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Of course, it's not only me. We more than 100 plus top educators and subject matter experts, part of Unacademy, supporting you. Under UPSC Civil Service examination, ladies and gentlemen, we got more than 15,000 courses, you might be aware. Great things will take time. It is the empire building process. There is no leadership without passions. There is no leadership without your passion, your involvement. There is no leadership without consistency and focus. We understand, ladies and gentlemen, all those parameters. Based on that, we have devised, program in such a way. Of course, that when we say, that UPSC civil service examination, that you might be well aware, the very, that plus program as well as iconic program, that this discussion is centered around optional subject, all popular optionals for which we extend our support. Of course, use my referral code, say success, to avail maximum 10% discount, whether it is 1 month program, 36 months program. Once that go for that my referral ID, say success, that, and avail 10% discount. Of course, you get benefit almost 5k you can save, ladies and gentlemen. 5,000 rupees you can save. Not only that, variety of teams on the part of Unacademy waiting there to support you. We strongly recommend you to go for iconic program. That you might be aware, the price hike is on the card. Of course, that you, so that, if you're already, that you enrolled yourself on the part of Unacademy for some programs, you can also upgrade yourself before 31st Jan. We are talking about what is this iconic program, ladies and gentlemen. You got, the unique feature part of this iconic program. You will be allotted a personal coach, a mentor to understand your nature and to suggest, study planner accordingly, so that you can customize or personalize your planner. The very genuine feedback you get, that on behalf of, that you, especially from the personal coach, of course, that will transform you. Ladies and gentlemen, not only that, you will be trained on everyday basis in terms of answer writing exercises. And also, that you move to the next level. If you need some clarity over some topics, you will be allowed to attend the booster sessions. You'll be allowed to participate in the high intensity workshops also, so that you join the quintessentials of, that the civil service aspirant, so that you definitely become topper, ladies and gentlemen. So all these measures we take you on behalf of you, that will completely accelerate your preparation with our daily input, say the content. You can download the PDF study materials. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is, of course, Success Sampath interacting with you. I think it is right time. Let me take you to the next level. Before going there, ladies and gentlemen, you can also go for, combination of programs, choosing GS part of, iconic program, and, optional subject, part of your plus program, or you can go for exclusive, plus program when it comes to GS as well as optional. Please here to use my referral ID, say success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, that, let me repeat once again, success, because this is Success Sampath interacting with you. I think it is right time. Let me take you to the very purpose, direction of, the today's interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in continuation of the variety of, the videos we have already given you, that you can watch them, as I told you earlier, right, part of Unacademy YouTube channel. So when it comes to, the very highly scoring popular subject, say sociology, you might be well aware. Because, I'm qualified enough to speak about this, because I could score, fantastic marks, because earlier I was called Sociology Sampath, as if I've given birth to. I'm sorry, my friends used to keep, they criticize me that way. And later I became Success Sampath, with your blessings. Ladies and gentlemen, what is this? Sociology. Sociology is all about, that society, study about society. It's a systematic study, scientific study, integrated study you make over society. What is society? What is society, ladies and gentlemen? It's a system or network of social relationship which you ultimately call society. It's more than people. It's not mere people, more than people. But something existing among the people there that you can't touch, you can't sense, but you're bound by that. After all, that that's what even Aristotle gone to the extent of saying, man is a social animal. Of course, we are animal. By birth, we are animal. Blood and flesh. Over the days, SIM card entered in us. What is that? The culture came. We have been socialized in such a way. We got exposed to, through various, the institutions on the part of the society. We have been institutionalized. All those institutions, institutionalized the very culture in us. And we too internalize. We too took part and, that imbibed, absorbed. Because the value system in us got inculcated by the variety of, the agents of socialization, we say. The brought up ultimately. We come to know, that how to dress, how to eat, how to greet, how to behave in a particular occasion. So the culture, that is the point of difference between we human society on the one hand, animal society on the other. Otherwise, this culture is called way of life, style of life, which is otherwise said to be the blueprint of the society. Ladies and gentlemen, Of course, you know that society is nothing but a system or network of social relationship existing among the human beings. Of course, for our own, political reasons, governance reasons, we have drawn, that like latitude, longitude, our own national boundaries. So this particular subject, sociology addresses the whole humanity, the system or network of relationship existing among them. You can ask me, why? We've got already variety of subjects, right? Social sciences, why we need one more? Because that all other social sciences making study over only one of the aspects of society. Ladies and gentlemen, sociology as the youngest of all social sciences, unique subject matter, taking into account multifaceted aspects of the society. And also systematic study, that it is not, that you take, that say marriage or, the family, all those institutions out of the society, you plug out and you make study. No, it's not possible. You have to understand the interconnectedness. You can't establish family without marriage. To enter into the institution of marriage, you need, members recruited from the family, another institution. So one institution is depending on other. That interdependent systematic study we understand. Otherwise, you treat society as a system, as if it has got various subsystems. When all subsystems are properly coordinated, don't you ensure the survival of the whole system? The subsystems could be, as I said in the beginning, right? Social institutions, marriage, family, kinship, education institution, economic institution, political institution. And also scientific study, yes. The whole society is our laboratory. As what you do in your, that laboratory, whether it is physics, chemistry, you would have done even in your engineering courses, that your science, the based laboratory in your colleges. Observation, experimentation, verification, hypothesis, the methods of natural sciences. But you make study over society. That's why the report you arrive at is said to be very precise, accurate. There are so many guys waiting there in the other end. Maybe social worker, social reformer, legislator, people part of judiciary, media people, non-governmental organization, civil society, the people part of, that regional or international organizations, waiting for our report. Why? The sociological report, which is said to be very precise, accurate. Not only that, the value neutrality, the objectivity, the core principles of sociology. That's the main reason, that with unique feature, we see, the two sides of a single coin when it comes to society. Because why? We got variety of perspectives on the part of, that sociology. You might be aware, structural functionalism, conflict school of thought, even symbolic interactionism. That symbolic interactionism, which is said to be the future of sociology, you might be aware. You make study over society through, that various perspectives. Say, for example, when you talk about structural functionalism, which treats society as a system, just what we discussed, as if it has got order, stability, equilibrium. Anything which promotes that particular order is said to be functional to that particular society. Anything that weakens the already existing, social order, stability, that's said to be dysfunctional to that particular society. The terrorism, poverty, centrifugal tendencies, dysfunctional to, that Indian society. Of course, you call community. But whereas law and order mechanism, all those, that the welfare nation notion, paternalistic nation notion, otherwise, that good governance, ethical governance, everything, all measures, even the very recent, we became part of solution, covaxin, Covishield. So the people start, that developing, the faith in the system, faith in government. Yes, because, that India became part of solution, joined the exclusive club of, few nations to have, solution for this, COVID crisis. That promotes social order. So, that you treat society as a system, accordingly functional, dysfunctional. But whereas conflict school of thought, you might be aware, the very Karl Marx said to be the founder of that particular tradition. According to them, history of hitherto all existing societies full of struggle between haves and have-nots. Varga Poratam in Tamil. It is that way, that otherwise, so it is that way. According to them, change is permanent because, the structural functionalism school of thought is running after the, that ideology. Of course, society as a system, order. But whereas conflict school of thought running after the notion, change. According to them, change is permanent. The change by revolution. Because, As I said, that except primitive communism, in all stages you find struggle, the class struggle between haves and have-nots. That particular struggle, antagonism, the class conflict, that becomes, very severe, very sharper when it reaches capitalistic society, where the working class, they're completely exploited by the, the so-called, ownership classes, of course. The capitalist versus, the proletariats we are talking about. When that, that all, even today we are going to discuss, one particular question centered around that, the alienation. That when that particular exploitation is said to be severe and sharper, that situation is ripe for revolution. Of course, it is radical. So then ultimately the revolution replaces the very society with, the classes which is exploitative in character. Of course, that the classless communist society is the political goal of the Marxism, the conflict school of thought. It is historical materialism or dialectic materialism according to Karl Marx. You might be aware. So order, that because of structural functionalism, the change, the conflict school of thought, and symbolic interactionism, we develop meanings out of interactions. That symbolic interactionism. Of course, it is that way from different perspectives with which you address the same phenomenon. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why the sociology is said to be, that objective social sciences. Of course, value neutrality we are talking about. Not taking the sides, not getting influenced. Of course, it is, the difficult. Even, that every social scientist, that should try towards it, according to Max Weber. Though it is difficult. We are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, that not only that variety of, basic concepts we already discussed, whether it is culture and associated concepts, the society, community, social group, social institutions, and also, that the change, social change, structural change, functional change, cultural change. All those theories, concepts, and perspectives, when you apply in Indian context, that's otherwise your paper 2, Indian society. In paper 1, mostly you go for, the global thinkers. Of course, whether you call, that Emile Durkheim, that Karl Marx, Max Weber, Talcott Parsons, Robert K. Mitton, G.H. Mead. When it comes to paper 2, of course, you speak the Indian sociologists, that you talk in terms of Indian sociologists. Of course, G.S. Gurye, A.R. Desai, M.N. Srinivas. You bring Weissing, Andre Betail, I.P. Desai, Gail Wombeth, T.K. Women, R.P. Mukherjee. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen, variety of people there. We are talking about Airavati Karve. That so many people are there. You might be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about. So, it is that way you have to understand, that this is fantastic, very simple. That syllabus may be paper 1, paper 2, everything put together. It's all about the multifaceted aspects of the society. But they, they have been presented in your syllabus as if they are separate institutions. And also personalization, customization of syllabus in Indian context. Ladies and gentlemen, please watch all those previous videos. You will come to know much about it. And not only that, that why society is getting, stratified, the classified on the basis of a particular criteria, where you talk about social stratification. Social stratification as a process. People are stratified, in terms of age, gender, caste, class. Of course, we are talking about. No society is free from that particular stratification. That's why social stratification as a process, that is universal. And also each and every institution we analyze through different perspectives, whether it is structural functionalism or conflict school of thought. Accordingly, we discuss variety of sociologists so that you understand better. Not only that, that even the case studies we discuss. So this is what, that ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you, especially on the subject, of course, one of the, the very popular and highly scoring optional subject called sociology. Why it is popular? Because you are in touch with that. You are living in the society. You are part of the society. Society is in you. I'm not speaking, I'm not teaching anything new in the name of, that optional subject called sociology, because you know everything. Probably you may not be knowing, original nomenclatures. If I say according to Sampath, you may not believe. But if I say according to Talcott Parsons, according to Karl Marx, according to Emile Durkheim, you are ready to. Yes, sir. Affiliation. Of course, that you get this, you substantiate. You take asylum in theories and perspectives and thinkers. And nomenclatures, the concepts, name you may not be knowing, but you are already in society, you are practicing. So that's why it is very easy for you to link, that with the subject, of course, because you know it. Oh, this is what you call. Of course, whether it is, the institution, especially the marriage, family, the kinship, you immediately link. In South India, you might be, that aware that the people practice cross cousin marriages, whereas in North, even entering into marriage, that varies from region to region. Came Kapadia, that speaking that way. You might be aware, according to that varies from zone to zone. Parallel cousin marriages, cross cousin marriages. In Hinduism, of course, cross cousin marriages, whereas in Islam, it is parallel cousin marriages. You might be aware. So a culture varies from place to place, time to time. Otherwise, there is no absolutely right culture or wrong culture in the world. The culture varies spatially, temporally. So the moment you understand all these things, ultimately, of course, that's what the essence of sociology, talking about objectivity. It's not taking sides, that you see, that you come to know, getting manifested in the name of, concepts like, the cultural relativism. It's not, the speaking ethnocentric or, xenocentric. Of course, you travel in the path of, that's what, most of the people speak that way, moderation. Whether it is Aristotle's golden mean or Buddha's, moderate path, that you see the same essence here. Objectivity, value neutrality, cultural relativism, that you come to know. That's why it became very popular. Whereas in German, that, so whatever it may be, that, so you speak, whatever you write, that's, that moving to the next level, the moment you understand the very, sociology, that will transform you as it transformed me. As it transformed me. You will never take sides. There will be judge in you. Of course, that will be inculcated. You will activate that judge because of this objectivity principle of sociology. You will come to know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Of course, brief introduction about, the sociology, because, you can definitely score, that more than, out of 500, more than 400, 450 plus, it's possible, because you just go through, if you solve last 5-year question papers, all questions are getting repeated, very well. In GS also, areas getting repeated, you might be aware. Before going to examination, you should have solved the question, but solving the question is actually a strategy you have to understand. That I'm going to discuss with you. I'm going to solve, the 3 questions also. That when I see the question paper every year, sociology, nothing, that is strange to me. Same thing. But it's not knowing the stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff. Delivery matters. That demands practice. So, it's not seeing the question at the end of the day or on the day of examination. I want you to see question every day, whether it is prelims or mains, that particular point we are keep on emphasizing, ladies and gentlemen. So that strategy I'm going to discuss with you. And beyond that, the questions are very simple stuff. You're going to, that see, ladies and gentlemen, we even mains, the 2020 similar questions, similar areas. And, that you apply when it comes to Indian society, the paper, you apply what's the current affairs relevant. But it should have sociological flavor. It should not be like GS. There should be the opinion of some sociologists. You have to incorporate. Otherwise, you take asylum in different, so the very perspectives, structural functionalism, or conflict school of thought, or symbolic interactionism. It is not simply, that writing like, layman language. There should be a sociological flavor with case studies. Of course, the social scientists, especially sociologists, observation over that. That's very important. Ladies and gentlemen, I think, that welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. I think our, that interaction is going to be centered around this way, and also, touching that smart and effective solution, taking you there, and finally, the resources to be consulted. Ladies and gentlemen, my humble attempt will be today to solve, that at least 3 questions in front of you. Of course, that let me share with you strategy. This is apart from basic concepts. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think, you had brief introduction about, the very sociology, the popular and highly scoring optional subject. You might be aware, ladies and gentlemen, the way with which you look at, the question is different from the way with which I look at. But finally, we both should look at the similar way so that you benefit more. That's very important. It's not, looking in different angles like Navagraha. No, it won't solve the purpose, ladies and gentlemen. There is a song, Naan pesa ninaippedillam nee pesa vendu. Very old song, I believe. My mom used to sing. Whatever, the strategy I conceive, that the technology should be shared to you, so that you practice there on the day of examination, so that you benefit more. That's very important, ladies and gentlemen. Right? When I see a question, I don't see question as a question. I see a question as a tag. But tattoo. But I say tag. What is that tag? First T is called topic. In every question, there will be topic. But whether fortunately, unfortunately, every topic with 360-degree angle. The multifaceted aspects of the topic. But this particular question may be centered around one of the aspects of that particular topic. And not only that, the question also carries its own taskmaster. What is that? What you have to do with that topic, and that to aspect of that particular topic. There comes a locator, the task, that what you have to perform for that particular question. So the task may be discuss, comment, critically evaluate, critically analyze. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to respect. It's not like university examination. For paperweight, you write something. It is competitive examination. How that the capable you are in edging out all those guys out of competition. That matters a lot. So that demands extra. Not the routine way with which you deliver. And that in universities like paperweight, or that the moment you see the question, you will start writing there. No, you have to plan. It should be a planned delivery, calculated delivery. Why? It talks about word economy, time management. Ladies and gentlemen, in UPSC civil service examination, mains, even the GS, we used to say that way, if you want to score 1 mark, you are supposed to write minimum 15 to 20 words. That within 1 minute. 15 to 20 words within 1 minute. To get 1 mark. That should be the thumb rule, ladies and gentlemen. So practice in such a way. Question is no more question. It's called tag. This is how, that while solving the question, you keep in your mind, this is the strategy, that not only that, ladies and gentlemen. So today I took up, the 2020 questions, especially fresh questions. Suda chuda. Garma garam, you call, na? It is that way. So how did the intellectual forces led to the emergence of, that intellectual forces led to the emergence of sociology? You have to understand the very subject sociology came in response to the various revolutions happened in the Europe. Of course, when you is Europe at the end of 18th century, at the beginning of 19th century. The various revolutions happened in the European society that changed the face of society. Social scientists of those days got confused because they were having, a particular conception about society. Wow, this is what society. But all those notions got challenged by the variety of changes happen in the variety of aspects of society. Whether you talk about French Revolution, that led to political change. Monarchy became democracy. The Industrial Revolution, that changed the, that economic face of the society. From, that of course, cottage-based industries to factory-based mode of production. It affected not only individual, even the family as a social institution, even society at large. You might be aware. And also, that the variety of revolutions, intellectual revolutions, we're talking about Enlightenment period, early Enlightenment, later Enlightenment. That early Enlightenment, it's focused on individual. Later Enlightenment, of course, it's focused on society. You might be aware. The commercial revolution, the various inventions, discovery, otherwise you call science and technology revolution. The notion of currency, the changed notion of transportation, the science, that started simplifying the very living. From complexity, you came out. And the various, the contributions from variety of social scientists, we are going to elaborate. So all these changes, affected the multifaceted aspects of the society. Ultimately, what happened, right? People got perplexed. If this is the society we have, that what was the society we had earlier in the past? Is it going to be, is the society is going to witness change like this? So the subject matter of sociology came in response to, that the variety of revolutions, the changes happened in the Europe. Why? Because, that all social scientists of those days, they started questioning, if this is the society, what was the society we heard earlier? Then let me think what society is. Then what is society? So they started writing about society. That culminated in the subject matter called sociology. This is basic notion I'm discussing. After that, we are going to see elaborated answer, don't worry. So it is discussed, this is the task. What is the topic? Emergence of sociology. Sociology as a subject matter and its emergence. That is the topic. That it has got variety of aspects. The various revolutions happened in the Europe, maybe Industrial Revolution, French Revolution. But now we are talking about the period of Enlightenment. Of course, the intellectual forces, that responsible for the culmination or emergence of the subject matter called sociology. That you are going to deliver 150 words. So this is the topic, and this is the aspect, and what you are going to do with that, you are going to discuss. This is the task. Tat. You understand, ladies and gentlemen? This is how you are going to solve. Of course, you know that you know the stuff. That's not a big thing. Definitely, you would have understood the concept, but only problem is delivery. Two aspirants, that would have stayed in a single room, would have prepared together, but one guy joining service with that fantastic marks, another guy could not. Why? It's not the problem with understanding, but the problem with delivery, and problem with focus, and problem with to the point delivery that demands practice, and problem with communication skill. Otherwise, we are so those parameters ultimately. It's not what you deliver, rather how do you deliver. It's not simply getting satisfaction. I wrote. Because it deals with space management also, because the answer sheet itself, the questions are printed already. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't write one question at the cost of another. So that demands this particular knack. So let me see this way. The question is no more questioning. It's called tact. Hope you'll also see the same way. This is my humble attempt. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, look at the topic, understand the aspect of the topic, and finally, what you have to do with that, the task we are talking about, of course. And also, the second question is about, I'm going to give you elaborated answer. Don't worry, just brief. Critically assess the Marxian theory of alienation. Alienation, you are getting alienated. You are not yourself. There is concept called weightlessness. The moment you travel in the lift, you just imagine from, the 50th floor, you are simply allowed. Your lift falling very freely. What will happen? Oh my God. The weightlessness. Otherwise, you feel as if you're thrown out of the planet of the earth. Get alienated. You are not yourself. It's a state of aloofness, self-estrangement. Self-estrangement. The people got exploited. Naturally, they feel frustrated. They go to that extent. They don't believe anybody. Finally. And finally, they'll say, that I don't like myself. I hate myself because the whole world cheated. That they go to that extent. That happens. People get alienated. So this Karl Marx, of course, the founder of the conflict school of thought, conflict tradition, he said the exploitative, capitalistic society. The exploitation is very severe and sharp and inhuman working conditions. That's leading to the alienation. It's a state of aloofness, self-estrangement. Your own self getting estranged. Otherwise, let me speak this way. The very forces for which you are responsible, you shape the entire forces. The forces questioning you, ultimately who you are. Some Raymond's owner, I believe, recently one corporate entity, Raymond's owner, that the founder of that Raymond's, that was roaming in the street. He was sent out, by his own son. I don't know how he extended it is true. Some came in newspaper. I'm sorry if it is wrong, that you please correct me. A guy who is, I don't know what went wrong inside the family. That's a different scenario. The forces for which you are responsible, the forces questioning you, who you are, out. Where you feel a jerk. Who are you? என்ன in Tamil there is a saying, என்ன பார்த்தா யாருன்னு கேட்டேன் நான் யாருன்னு கேட்டுட்டேன். So the emotional, of course, the people feel shocked, appalled, ultimately. So it's a theory of alienation is all about that. In the severe exploitation, inhuman working condition, the capitalistic society, how the workers are getting alienated. That alienation occurs at the 4 levels we are going to discuss, from the product, from the process, and finally he gets, alienated from himself. He hates himself, and finally he gets alienated from the community. From the product, because of the thing you are working in Rolls-Royce company, you won't be given, that every year one Rolls-Royce. You're not even tire. One wheel. You're not given, you're not shared part of the produce. Right? So from the product, from the process, you may be highly specialized in a particular, that division of that particular company, but you don't know what's happening in the overall. You get alienated from the process too. And what happened ultimately one day, fine morning, that you come to know, that you alienated. See, this alienation also is getting justified because of theory of, the surplus value concept. What you contribute and what you get back in return. There is always, a difference. Maybe if you're capable of, contributing to the tune of, the 10 lakhs, If you're capable of generating to the company, maybe you are given 1 lakh. Maybe in the corporate IT world, the 9 lakh, that you are paid only 1 lakh. Only when you generate 10 lakhs worthy the income to the company. In the sense I'm talking about, maybe IT, maybe the difference 9 lakh is being appropriated by the capitalist as a profit. What do you give and what do you get back in return? The difference being appropriated by the capitalist as a profit. As long as the people, the working class, unaware of this exploitation, that they are subject to the exploitation, they think, the management is doing fantastic. The moment they realize that they are all subject to the exploitation. So this is what we call, there are a lot of shorts, the notes also, that we used to get earlier. Class in itself becoming class for itself, or objective class becoming subjective class. Hitherto, you had, that no emotional attachment with the company, not even against the company. Now you are against the company. The objectivity became subjectivity. Class in itself becoming class for itself. Otherwise, hitherto what you were living, that you were said to be living under false class consciousness. The real class consciousness emerges, that there comes ultimately your own comrades, that making you understand you are all subject to the exploitation. Ultimately, you realize, oh, what is this? The world proletariats unite together. There comes a clarion call. Ultimately, you come together, there comes a revolution. This is how it works. The root cause, exploitation. Aware of the exploitation, unaware of the exploitation. We are talking about this way. So, inhuman working condition, exploitative capitalism, how it is responsible for pushing an individual. Not only that, there are a variety of reasons we are going to discuss. The routine job, drudgery, boredom, and the service sector domination, and the receptionist job, a marketing executive. So whether that guy likes you or not, he will immediately rush to, whether it is in the airport, railway station. Sir, that you need not buy, sir. You please, can you see the product? You will say, please don't waste your time. I don't have inclination of buying, please. But he will say, no, sir. You just have a touch, as if he is promoting the product. It's a profession. So what happened? That so many no's, naysayers, otherwise rejection. Ultimately, one day, fine morning, feeling alienated that way. We're talking about. So, that nowadays marketing executives are very cool, totally different. That if you say no, that guy, you will hear the sound. He will start scolding you. வந்துட்டான் பெருசா வாங்குறதுக்கு முடியல பெருசா வந்துட்டான். The dialogue will be there. You can't even tolerate that. But the address will be, sir, can you buy? If you say no, opposite. Oh my God. So that negativity, of course, that's something, we come to know. So the alienation, state of aloofness, that there are social scientists gone to the extent of saying alienation as a powerlessness, meaninglessness, normlessness. How the technology is responsible. When the technology is at the peak level, alienation will be short. When you've got control over technology, you are capable of controlling alienation. It is that way. That is a German. We are talking, that it's a critical assessment we are going to discuss, of course. Right here, what is the topic? No doubt, that the topic is, of course, alienation. So what about alienation? That they are, that Marxian theory of alienation, no doubt, that the founder of conflict tradition who spoke about it, you might be aware. And critical assessment is the task. This is what we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So analyze, that let's move to the third question. Analyze the relevance of pattern variables we are talking about. You've got, ethical dilemmas, either to go this way or that way. You are guided by the society. Society has got its own pattern variables. Affectivity versus affective neutrality. To be emotional or emotional neutral. Diffusiveness versus specificity. The spread, information awareness, maybe overspread. That you don't speak, that 100% information with your doctor, but you speak everything with your family member and friends, well-wishers. Specificity versus diffusiveness. Do you accord status to a particular person based on the ascriptive status or achieved status? Do you respect people because of the, that affinity to a particular caste, or because of their own, that efforts through which, that they have become, by education, by health, by wealth? It's totally different. Quality versus performance. Whether you, that respect, that evaluate things in terms of universal value system or particular value system. We are talking that way. Or self-orientation or collective orientation. Am I benefiting anything out of it? Is it that way? Or are society benefiting out of it? Let me do this. Is it that way? Universal values, you speak in terms of that the liberal values or human freedom, or you speak only one your own that identity, your own caste people, your own religious people, your own language people should benefit out of it. Is it that way? Particularism or parochialization, of course. So you got confusion whenever you try to because according to, you might be aware, the Talcott Parsons, that of course the contribution we are talking about, the pattern variables, social system, he spoke. Society has got its own structure. He spoke about agile model, adaptation, goal attainment, integration, latency, you might be aware. And also 4 types of the structures he himself has given, you might be aware. The pattern variables, of course, that so that individuals, that the choice, that whenever they are perplexed, they got dilemma, ethical dilemma, otherwise you call that way, the dilemma to choose either this way or that way, there you are guided by the pattern variable. Actually, I elaborated that based on this particular thing. What is that? ADQPS: affectivity versus affective neutrality, diffusiveness versus specificity, quality versus the performance, particularism versus universalism, self-orientation versus collective orientation. The pattern variable. This is according to American, that the sociologists, especially the structural functionalists, modern structural functionalists. You might be aware. The Talcott Parsons, we are going to elaborate, of course, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way the pattern variables we are going to discuss. Yes. So what is the point? So, that in the study of social change, got the idea, na? So how the structural functionalism school of thought will look at the change. The change, they won't say change. They will say social dynamics. When Karl Marx, that when conflict school of thought, the preoccupied with the notion, that the change, structural functionalism school of thought, the preoccupied with the notion, what do you call? Of course, order, stability, cohesion. It is that way. So, that we are going to discuss about it. Of course, Talcott Parsons, pattern variables, analyze the relevance of pattern variables in the study of social change. The topic, of course, pattern variables, of course, the aspect, that analyze, they are asking you to analyze the very relevance of pattern variables, the study of social change. The pattern variables, that how it is changing. Of course, you witness paradigm shift. Hitherto, that you would have spoken for your particular values. Now you started addressing, the universal values, the liberal principles, the peace and the amity we are talking about. So, that earlier, that you became, that emotional, but nowadays the corporate world expecting you to be, that emotionally neutral. But at the end of the day, that there should be a perfect balance. That's what Swami Vivekananda also says. Perfect balance between the heart and brain you are talking about. Huh? One Bazaar movie also came, that I think. You should have emotions also. Diffusiveness versus specificity. You want to be very specific, or the complete, the broad based. It's that way. And of course, that hitherto you were traced, that your origin in terms of the gotra, the caste. Now you started speaking in terms of class, in terms of your that knowledge, in terms of that from IQ to EQ rather. And that over the days people will speak this way, that they won't ask you what's your bank balance, how many acres you have, how many villas you have. No, how many patents you have. I think you have watched movie Three Idiots. Na, he's that one that scientist, na, the Wang Chu. The 400 patents, a great personality. That way, na, you would have seen the Three Idiots movie, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. It's almost like paradigm shift that you witness. When it comes to that shift, may be change from that one paradigm to another paradigm. Of course, that's what you call. You move from every stage. We are going to elaborate. Of course, the topic is of course pattern variable aspect linking with study of social change, asking you to analyze. This is what task, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to discuss based on the recent, of course, recently conducted, the mains 2020 of sociology questions. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to the next level. Right? Yes. The first question, of course. How did the intellectual forces led to the emergence of sociology? Because, they're not asking you to address, the French Revolution, which affected political change, or Industrial Revolution, which affected, the economic change. Rather, the Enlightenment period, they are asking. Got the idea, na? So they want, that you to address the Enlightenment period. That led to the emergence of sociology. Ladies and gentlemen, that too, 10 marks, 150 words. That of course, what is that? The very task, discuss. You have to understand what is discuss. Let me take you in. I copied from different sources also. Of course, what do you mean by discuss? Simply the dictionary meaning, of course, you might be well aware. When you talk about discuss, to talk or write about something very seriously or formally. It's not non-serious talk, rubbish, or it's not very informal talk. Of course, it's a formal talk. It's got purpose. Either you talk or write. Discuss is all about that, ladies and gentlemen. But here, that forget about this talk. We are going to write here. So the discuss. This is what literal meaning. In spite of that, that let me take you. That the moment that you're asked to discuss, in what way? So discuss questions. That the question words typically require. That the words available on the part of the question you're going to discuss. That an in-depth answer you're going to discuss. Of course, that maybe it's prior to that the critical depth. Let me speak that way. That takes into that account all aspects of the debate. The 360-degree you take into account. You got freedom here to discuss all aspects. That it's not only positive, even negative. You take into account everything. So all aspects of the debate concerning your research topic or argument. So you take into account all aspects of the topic. So that's what discuss. Number one, you got the idea, and in a formal way, and also it's a serious, the writing. It's not that informal. It's not that non-serious writing. Of course, you must demonstrate the reasoning skills. Got the point? Now, why you are discussing? For every discussion should be based on reason, not based on faith, not based on there should be a logic. Let me put that way, ladies and gentlemen. So, with the type of by using evidence to make a case either for or against the topic we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So you got reasoning, the justification or logical connectivity, especially with evidence for every discussion. Otherwise it's simply like epic Purana stories we are talking about. You got evidence, that you got justification, strong reasoning or logical connectivity. With that, either you take that stand for or against the topic, nothing wrong. Broad based, for or against, all aspects, for or against you're talking about. Let me take you, that we are discussing what is discuss. We are discussing the terminology on the part of the question discuss. Hope it's not disgusting from your point of view, ladies and gentlemen. So give a detailed examination of the topic we are talking about. A detailed examination we are giving of the topic by including especially the knowledge of the various perspectives. That already we spoke about this. We took into account all aspects of the debate, all aspects of the topic. Otherwise, detail, that when we are discussing, that it's a detailed discussion. It's not subtle or secret. It's very open and detailed discussion we are talking about, including the knowledge of various perspectives put forwarded by other scholars. That you should be open to accept, views of others also. It's almost like this. It is not, my way is highway. It won't work. Of course, that should be, that interlocution. Of course, we are talking about. So, that you should be open to accept others' views also. Of course, we are talking about. So, able to accommodate views of others. So, it should be broad-based. All aspects you take into account, whether it is positive or negative. That I'm broad-basing the very discussion, say, is centered around the term called discuss. That's otherwise you are tasked on the part of this particular question. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 second. Yes. What are your thoughts on the subject? On the subject based on general debates in the literature. You can also that you practice in such way. This is example. It is that way. Your thoughts that on the subject, the based on general debates, that may be question like that. Remember to the clearly state your position, whatever may be the discussion. The broad base, take into account all again, that all aspects, whether you are in favor of it or against it. So clearly state your position. The people participate in the discussion, they have to take a stand. That's very important. And that too, that stand based on the evidence what you have. It's not necessary that you have to, that go with others. You got strong evidence, you got logical connectivity. Definitely, you can go against the view. Nothing wrong in that. Who asked you to? You can stand out, that from the crowd opinion. Nothing wrong in that. It is that way, that's what discuss. That as long as you got strong evidence, you got detailed, that information, you got strong justification, that of course, the reasoning, otherwise logical connectivity, as long as that the various aspects, you took stand based on that, and it's very formal and sincere, the discussion. I think it's enough. Ladies and gentlemen, you would have understood something about discuss, the task discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, let me enter into the question. Of course, the very question talking about Enlightenment period, intellectual forces culminating the emergence of the subject matter called sociology. Enlightenment. Of course, we are talking about, the European intellectual movement we are talking about emphasize upon reason and individualism. Got the idea? Na? Reasoning, justification, and individualism. That's what Western world. Reasoning, justification, logical connectivity. We're talking about that way. And you know that what happened, right? This intellectual ideas, they had great influence on the emergence of sociology, on emergence of sociology. We are talking about. They had great influence. We are talking about. So, that of course, one sociologist, that Irving Zeitlin, we are talking about ideology and development of, that the sociological theory. The early sociology, that says, of course, according to this particular social scientist we are talking about, the early sociology developed as a reaction to the Enlightenment. That's what. The very sociology came in response to the various revolutions happened in the Europe, I say. That revolution, maybe, as we discuss intellectual revolution or French revolution or industrial revolution, we are talking about. Our discussion is centered around the intellectual ideas we are talking about. So ideology and development of sociological theory came in response. It's a reaction, of course, to the Enlightenment happened in the Europe. The different ideas from different social scientists. We're talking about that way, ladies and gentlemen. So bulb, Enlightenment, you got to, of course, it is that way. So the early sociology, in the period of Enlightenment, you have to understand, that the Enlightenment period and counter-Enlightenment ideas, that it's almost opposite. For every thesis, you got, antithesis, then synthesis. Hegel, already, dialectic nature. So early sociology witnessed Enlightenment period and counter-intelligent, that Enlightenment, that ideas also. During Enlightenment of, the Enlightenment period, of course, ideas, the individual was the focus. The center stage is on individual. That, as I said, the beginning. But there came, that later, the counter-intelligence, of course, where we are talking about society became focused. Society as the most important unit of analysis. For your kind information, ladies and gentlemen, the difference between psychology and sociology is this. The focus of psychology is on individual mind and its relationship with other minds. But whereas the focus of, the sociology on society, social institutions, social groups, collectivity. And there is one overlapping subject, that social psychology, impact of individual on society, impact of society on individual. Sigmund Freud, even G.H. Mead, symbolic interactionism, the touching that domain, you might be aware. So here I'm talking about, enlightenment of ideas. Of course, individual was a focus, but counter-enlightenment, of course, society was a focus. The focus of sociology is on collectivity, society. Not like, sociology on individual. You might be aware. What may be. Of course, you come to know it is that way. So enlightenment, that ideas of rationalism, justification, reasoning. You got reasoning, strong reasoning, empiricism, verifiability. That you got strong, that verification. Even if you repeat millions of times, you get the same result. Verifiability, empiricism. It is one of the methods of natural sciences: observation, experimentation, verification, hypothesis, verification, empiricism. You got a strong proof for that. And change orientation, we are talking about, what the change, the enlightenment ideas of rationalism, empiricism, and change orientation, what we are talking about, because of the revolution affected the early sociology. So enlightenment ideas, which it focused on individual, underwent phenomenal shift, gave way to the counter enlightenment period, and it's focused on society. You might be aware, you understand, from individual to society, the focus. Why? It's because of that, the very shift in, the change from rationalism, empiricism, and change orientation affected the early sociology. Ultimately, that led to, we are talking about, so earliest form of sociological investigation, where we are talking about enlightenment ideas of rationality and scientific investigation. So rationality was given very much important, and also scientific investigation. That's why the whole society became laboratory. It's otherwise called positivism. Applying the methods of natural sciences for making study over society. Even in the beginning, I said that's why the report, the sociological report said to be precise, accurate. We're talking that way. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to the next level. Yes, what is that? So, the Darwin's idea about, the very organic evolution you're talking about, that. So Charles Darwin, you might be aware, that it's not Charles Darwin. Of course, this is Auguste Comte we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. That's Auguste Comte, the peruvacha appa. Sociology ki peruvacha appa vai marakalama. Auguste Comte, who is said to be the founding father of sociology. It is he who named the sociology, the subject matter, socius and logos. Latin and Greek terms you might be aware. Let's come back. The Enlightenment period, the Darwin's idea about organic evolution, origin of species, you might be aware, was another dominant influence, that on the early sociology. So rationalization, we are talking about, the empiricism we are talking about, and also, the scientific investigation we are talking about. Oh my God! And change orientation. Apart from that, we are talking about. And one more important point, what we discussed, ladies and gentlemen. So, that I think that's all. Rationalization, empiricism, change orientation, rational, reasoning, rationalization, logical connectivity. That's very important, that we are talking about. So, and influence of, the origin of species, the Charles Darwin, the ideology. And many of the social thinkers, started to believe that society evolves in a similar fashion as organisms do. As society, the organism moves from simple to complex. You might be aware. When tissues, you might be aware, when cells combining together, you get tissues. Tissues combining together, you get organs combining together, subsystem. When subsystems properly coordinated, don't you ensure the survival of the whole system called human organism? We are multicellular organism, you might be aware. The similar way, society also moves from simple to complex. Even Emile Durkheim gave variety of classification. Monosegmentary, polysegmentary society, you might be aware, simple to complex mechanism. So in the same way, it's otherwise called social Darwinism. Simple to complex, that life evolving from simple to complex. In the same way, society moves from simple to complex. But organism has got life. Do you think, society has got life? There were several debates centered around that. The limitations on, the society too. Of course, the society was compared with living organism because of the influence of, that's why, the social Darwinism we are talking about. Origin of species, a dominant influence on early sociology we are talking about. So believe society evolves in a similar fashion as organism do, simple to complex. Progress in knowledge of society on lines of, the natural sciences we are talking. Progress in knowledge of society on the lines of natural sciences, promised, the solution to all social ills we are talking about. Of course, what happened, right? This particular, that's what, Auguste Comte started saying. That the very social physics, he gave that name in the beginning, prior to this sociology. Of course, that. So it's going to provide solution to all social issues. That was the promise. Those days, that days of Auguste Comte, the founding father of sociology we are talking about. It's going to be the solution to all social ills. Of course, this is what Auguste Comte, of course, the French scholar, French philosopher, of course, we are talking about, believed to be the founder of, the sociology. It is he. Sociology contributes to the welfare of the humanity. Of course, as a sociologist, you are supposed to make, that study and provide report. As civil service aspirant, you are going to, that understand the subject, you are going to answer the question, you are going to get the score, and you are going to become topper. That's all your role. You are not sociologist. Let me differentiate here. But sociology contributes for the welfare of the humanity. Those days, in the emergence of sociology we are talking about, that, so it's unbecoming on the part of sociology. Sociology becomes ideological. We are not like, the social worker, social reformer. Our duty is to provide, study, understand, and make generalization. That's all. There are guys waiting there. That's why sociologist role, you might be aware. But, Auguste Comte, spoke in other way in the beginning. Sociology contributes to the welfare of the humanity, according to him, has to be approached as a science. Sociology is a science that was preoccupation. Even Emile Durkheim gone to the extent of delineating, subject matter of sociology. The comparative sociology, everything you come to know. Sociology as a science. Even the method of, positivism, applying the methods of natural sciences, that on the society and making study over society. And you arrive at generalization. So this movement is called positivism we are talking about. So after Auguste Comte, Emile Durkheim we are talking. So it has to be approached as a scientific discipline, not like other social sciences. Then you can ask me, where is the laboratory? The whole society is laboratory. That way. So what happened, that all these ideas we are talking about in France, that's said to be the birthplace of sociology we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe, especially, especially the France we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you in. What is that? So the phase of French sociology through seminal formative work. The variety of contribution from different social scientists of, those times, especially in the French, the country we are talking about, the European society. So the Tocqueville we are talking about, Saint Simon, that industrial sociology you come to know. Saint Simon, that of course guru to our founding father of sociology, Auguste Comte. Then Herbert Spencer, we are talking about Emile Durkheim. Ladies and gentlemen, phase of French sociology through seminal, so contribution from different social scientists in different points of time, especially in the European society, of course, that culminated, that enriched the very, the subject matter of the sociology, especially in the French domain we are talking about. So, of course, that the Auguste Comte we are talking about, the first to use the term sociology, believed that the study of sociology would be scientific. As I said, it's a repetition. You might be aware. You know the point already. So he developed, his scientific view of the discipline in the form of positivism or positive philosophy. As I said in the beginning, not only Auguste Comte, even Emile Durkheim shared the same way. The methods of natural sciences like observation, experimentation, verification, hypothesis, they can be applied on society. But it's that way, ladies and gentlemen. So very Auguste Comte developed social physics initially 1839. Later he called, of course, it was called in the beginning social physics. Later it was called sociology, as we discussed in the, that earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, you come to know. So it came in response to variety of revolutions and also contribution from, the intellectuals of that European society, especially the French, which is said to be the birthplace. Of course, that the grand dominant influence, on sociology by the Charles Darwin origin of species we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. Not only that, so according to the very that sociological problems and literature, you might be aware. Themes in the very T.B. Barmore, that the book you would have seen. And according to him, the main intellectual streams that influence the emergence of sociology. We are talking about, the very birth of sociology has got its root, that especially in the intellectual streams. How? The political philosophy of Montesquieu. Montesquieu might be already aware, theory of separation of parts. And also, that social contract theory, Rousseau, you're talking about. And also, the philosophy of history we are talking about. And theory of organic evolution. Of course, just now we spoke the Charles Darwin, origin of species. And movements for, the social and political reforms like, the French Revolution, the change of notion from monarchy to, the democracy, liberty, equality, fraternity, the liberal principle. And development, the various, the measurements, the social survey method. We're talking about developmental method of social survey and research methodologies. So all these things, that intellectual, variety of intellectual streams, the culminated the emergence of sociology we are talking about. Of course, Rousseau here, the Montesquieu here. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Charles Darwin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Of course, this is my humble attempt so that you stay with the spirit. Of course, the purpose is that your question is no more question. It's a TAT, topic, aspect, and also, the task. We are talking, that centered around that, we are discussing. We are discussing especially, the previous year question, especially recent, the mains 2020 sociology question. This is out. So, it was full of confusion, the European society, the dark ages, the dawn of modernity and its fallouts we are talking about. So, of course, the Enlightenment period. What happened, right? Parallelly, you discuss everything. Rise of industrial society, middle class birth, secularism principles, urbanization, and also, the economic changes, because of industrial revolution, the change, the market forces, capitalism, and political changes because of the French Revolution. The monarchy became democracy, liberty, equality, fraternity. And also the challenges, of course, the new phase of poverty, the changed notion with which people couldn't cope up. The poverty and nuclear family, joint family became, nuclear family, and economic challenges when you talk about, the crime rate increase, variety of new crimes, as even now you witness, cyber crime, the Cambridge Analytica indulging in, intruding your privacy, data privacy. Even recently, that in discussion, you might be aware, data privacy bill is after discussion in the Lok Sabha, you might be aware. It's in the European line we are talking about. So, when the society moves from one level to another, that it becomes complex. The issues are complex. To deal with that, we need variety of modern tools. Of course, the same way. And also the crime rates, variety of modern crimes. We're talking that way. The use of drones, for example, the artificial intelligence, the algorithm. It is that way, that you might be. So everybody under surveillance in the given, the big data, that you might be aware, we are talking about cyber snooping or cyber crime. Of course, the poor living conditions, because, that the predominance of the capitalistic tendency, the profit motive, and political changes, all these things ultimately leading to chaos, uncertainty, what recently happened, Arab Spring like situation. So all this, that the variety of challenges, that from variety of aspects of society, that that coincided with intellectual, the context, and also that the scientific context, various revolution, invention, discoveries, variety of contribution from variety of that intellectuals, intelligentsia community. So that culminated, of course, that the quest, that variety of course they had, for that that the answers came. So that culminated in the very subject matter, of course, you call the emergence of the discipline called sociology has got its own root here. Ladies and gentlemen, you would have understood. I think that this is my humble attempt. You can also enrich your answer to the next level with the input from your own, that maybe creative input from your side. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is the right time. Let me take you to the next level. What is that? Next question. This is about critically assess the Marxian theory of alienation. We gave already brief. We are going to elaborate. This is also 2020 10 marks, 150 words. Let me take you. Before going there, you should know what is assess. The task called critical depth assessment. Of course, normally when you are asked to assess, that you are given, you give feedback this way. Is it excellent? Or 1 to 5, 1 to 10, you give marks, maybe excellent, good, average. This is that way. You are asked to assess, evaluate. Excuse me, 1 second. In the case of, that assess question words. Of course, when you get this term task called assess, you are expected to consider or make an informed judgment. It is not ill-conceived judgment, informed judgment. It should be well informed, the mature judgment. We are talking about the value, strengths, even weaknesses of an argument, claim, or topic. It is that way. You would have watched the big fight in NDTV programs. You would have watched. And even the big picture part of that looks about TV, that of course, informed judgment. The people differ. Let's agree to disagree. Nothing. We have to accept, respect the opinion of others also parallelly. So it's that you can't expect the uniformity. Of course, diversity we have to appreciate. What is the point? Assess the question words. You are expected to consider, make an informed judgment. We are talking. It is informed judgment about the value, strength, weakness, argument, the claim or topic. That's what the meaning assess. Assess questions, the place particular and place particular emphasis on weighing, evaluating all views concerning, the essay subject or opposed to, that your own opinion, whatever may be the topic. You have to, that evaluate all views. It's not restricted to few views. It's a broad base. You take into account everything. Then only judgment is complete or evaluation is complete. Otherwise, it is partial. So you put all tools in place, before assessing. So that's what, that you get the phrase. What is that? Informed judgment, informed evaluation, assessment. However, when assessing a particular argument or topic, it is important that your thoughts on its, that significance are made very clear. That's very important. It's not subtle. It's not secretive. It should be very open and clear, crystal clear. So that's what you see, that in few words, you make it very clear, your assessment. It's not beating about the bush. And that too, the critically assess, go depth and evaluate. So definitely you have to consult all the views, all the tools, responsible for that particular topic, because it's going to be well-informed judgment. You analyze all, the strength, weakness, everything, argument, that about that particular topic we are talking about. It's of course in informed judgment, in depth we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, you got it. And also, that you make it very clear, finally that's important. So that's what assess. Not only that, this must be supported by evidence. Okay. Got the point? There should be a strong reasoning, justification, because what parameter you utilized. Even that's what happening in now when people talking about the global indices. Ultimately, India has got its own complaint. That you guys, you got strong parameters motivated towards a particular nation. That goes against India. Change your parameter. One shoe cannot fit everyone. It's not applicable. That how come you can say, how come you can use the same parameter to assess developed country, developing country, underdeveloped country? Come on, equity, it's not equality, equity principle. Of course, you have to change the parameters. This must be supported by evidence. That because if there is no that evidence, lack of evidence, how come you can subscribe the outcome of that particular index? And secondary sources, that what a point. And secondary sources in the literature, are a great start. That what are the point before you access, that assess, have evidence. And without evidence, how come you can that assess? And even secondary sources in the literature, of course, how to start assessing. Maybe you get that particular view. Not only that, essentially you need to convince the reader about the strength of your argument, the way with which you assess, that the tools in detail, you take into account all views, the informed, the judgment what you make, that should be quite convincing. It should not be partial, it should not be one-sided. Got the idea? It is that way. It should, it should be based on objectivity, value neutrality. That way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about, and using research to back up your assessment. That should be based on some sort of research study, some tools that way. So that they are very much essential. Otherwise, your judgment is maybe that motivated, or that maybe that maybe for that wrong reasons. Otherwise, maybe the judgmental goes that against you that way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about, of course, highlight any limitations that to your argument. So while they're talking about, it's not saying that my way is highway, or this is fantastic tool in the world. Of course, you have to parallelly mention that your judgmental mechanism, what you did, the informed judgment, of course, it's not free from flaws, free from the limitations. Parallelly have guts to talk about that, highlight any limitations to your argument. And remember to mention the counter arguments to your position. When you got sufficient grounds, you can also go for counter arguments. Of course, this is informed judgment we are talking about, and that the question is centered around the critically assess in depth that informed judgment, and that demands justification, the tools you employ. We're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, and taking into account all views. Not only that, and also that you understand what is the flaws or limitations on your part, when you go for some parameters, before going for informed judgmental position evaluation. Ladies and gentlemen, and it should be very crystal clear, that having judged the very outcome, of course, like this: excellent, good, average, or 1 to 5, what's your rating will be. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, that even the feedback forms, you would have got this. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think you would have got some ideas. My humble attempt. Of course, you can build many things beyond that, of course, based on that. Right. So you might be in the beginning also be that alienation is a concept. Of course, it's a state of aloofness, self-estrangement. What is the context? Karl Marx talking about. Who is the Karl Marx? The founder of conflicting tradition, the Communist Manifesto. The political goal of Marxism, you might be aware, the establishment of classless communist society, you might be aware. It is that way. So according to that, that alienation notion, the concept that happens in the exploitative capitalistic society, that how the workers feeling that alienated, felt left aloof. That is that state of aloofness. Otherwise, you are talking about. So what happens, right? Labor is external to the worker and is food. Otherwise, let me speak this way: dead labor dominating the living labor. So all your efforts, that has been converted into product now. All your value addition has become product now. But you can't buy the product. Now the product is threatening you. So let me give you one example, ladies and gentlemen. I think when I was young, my uncle took me, I believe, right, to the neighborhood, not neighborhood, nearby area, town, of course, that there was a sugar factory, some Sengalvara sugar factory, I believe, that when I was doing some schooling, that some eighth, ninth standard, I believe, he took me to. So first time I'm seeing how sugar factory works and all. So what happened, right? That we took our, the sugar cane from our field, ultimately, the tractor, and took, that to the, that nearby town, the factory. Ultimately, that all those, that the sugar cane will be crushed, you might be aware. So the crushed juices ultimately. So juices will go for chemical treatment, various stages. Ultimately, that after the treatment, that the very sugar juice becomes, a crystalline, clear, pure, shiny, white sugar. In making this sugar, how many the workers would have been responsible, you might be aware. So how on the field, the agriculture field, the guys on the part of that growing that particular that sugarcane plant stem, of course, that, and also removing all those weeds, and irrigating, not irritating, irrigating, applying fertilizer, and the cutting into sizes, and also logistics, package, and transportation before it reaches the factory. How many workers would have been involved? But any one of the worker goes and touches that sugar. It's a hypothetical situation, it's not true. Just you understand, that I'm telling my experience that way. If that guy, with the dirty, the worker na, he'll be dirty because he worked in plow fields, like he goes and touches the sugar. Sugar said, hypothetical situation, don't touch me, you are dirty. If you touch me, that you spoil me. No, I am clear, pure white, you touched me, you spoil me. So how the worker would have felt? No, you told me don't touch me. It is I who made all those efforts, making you as this sugar to this stage, but you told me not to touch you. He felt alienated. I am the one responsible. Maybe he's speaking, that on behalf of all those workers union or workforce. He became voice of those voiceless. You think that way? You told me don't touch me. Maybe me touching you, sugar, you're getting spoiled. You became dirty. You felt aloof, estranged, state of aloofness, self-estranged. I'm the one who is responsible for creating these forces, but the forces question me who you are. You understand what I'm talking? The forces for which you are responsible. Otherwise, the workers, that labor, now it has become a product called crystalline white sugar. His labor, when it went out of this laborer, the labor, of course, that the efforts of the laborer went out of him. Now it's no more part of laborer. He has been paid compensation, wage. That's totally different scenario. Now that got converted into product, a crystalline sugar. The sugar, now it's no more part of laborer, but it became, a labor became dead labor. Dead labor dominating the living laborer. Your effort became product. The product is questioning you who you are. So labor is external to the worker and is forced. Dead labor dominating living labor. That's another definition. But labor, it became external, and that you are forced to work. That's what Karl Marx says. Where you feel alienated, you are not passionate, you are not interested. Maybe where you are, that getting alienation. Not only that, lack of sense of control over social world. And dead labor, of course, capital dominating living labor. That proletariat. That your effort has become, that a product now. It's part of the capitalist world. Now it's dominating. You can't touch. You make perfect villa, all construction workers. After doing all those, whitewash, that all those, aesthetic sense, interior design, that will you allow, that the worker come inside and spoil and lay down in your bed? He won't even, that there is another story also that way. You would have heard Saukumaram. In Tamil, it's called Saukumaram. Casuarina. Casuarina, that the rural area you would have witnessed. Mostly they were used, for the construction of homes. Nowadays, people use, the iron structures for building constructions. Those days, that in the rural area, small building and so, still they use, wooden support. What will happen? So that the house will be built fantastic. That now these cash, all those, that after RCC, all those, supporting structures, wooden structures will be removed, kept at the back. This is a tree called, the Casuarina, Saukumaram in Tamil. Hitherto they supported building of that particular, that home, whatever may be. Now it's kept at the back. Why? Because it's going to be housewarming ceremony now. It's a function now. So two trees, banana trees, nowhere related to the construction of this particular home. they were somewhere, they are brought and that almost put in front of the home, given serial lights, all those things, you might be aware. The housewarming ceremony, how you use banana tree, The wooden tree, of course, the casuarina structure hitherto helped for building the homes. It has been removed. They have been kept in the back. But the trees, of course, banana trees, nowhere related to the construction of this home. They are brought and, that set in front of the home on the day of housewarming. They are given honor. So casuarina the very tree felt, that I worked very hard, but I kept, that aloof. I was given differential treatment, discrimination. But you, banana leaf, you are nowhere related to this home. They give you, that a great respect to you. How you don't have answer? You understand how the mindset of the cashew. But that particular, that the wooden structure will be ready to build another home. That's all. Not worrying about this. I mean, for the story's sake, let me speak this way. This is what life. So laborers, that they have to, what they do is external. Labor is external to the worker and is forced. It's gone out of him. And also, the moment it gone out of him, it became dead labor, became capital. Now capital dominating this living labor called proletariat's laborer. This is Karl Marx. In the Alienation, he gave depth analysis. So appropriation of, the capital. What is the point? The use of capital, that otherwise exploitation of the capital. And that dominates, over laborers. And also inhuman working conditions, that what happened, they're not properly taken care of. But of course, modern day management, you got, the consultative committee, you got a lot of provisions. That's different scenario. So the exploitation is responsible for this, the alienation, the tendency to get alienation. அந்நியமயமாக்குது. In Tamil, it's called anniyan, அந்நியமயமாதல். Aparachita, you call aparachit. Anniyan, you feel alienated. That you're odd man out. You would have watched the movie, one movie like that. Because the whole world is, traveling in different direction. You are in different direction because you respect rules. You became rules Ramanujam. Rest of the guys, they are floating all those norms. That's what the majority, the herd mentality. You are towards excellence, they are towards survival. But they tell you, you don't know how to survive. Is it so? It is that way, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about. Of course, feeling of self-estrangement, a socio-psychological condition of laborer from social existence. It is subjective, it is not objective, because, he felt, he got influenced. Oh my God, why this discrimination? Why this ill treatment? He felt, that he exploited. Because the theory of surplus value, I already gave justification. What you give, what you get back in return, the difference is being appropriated by the capitalists as a profit. Where proletariats, that the feeling exploited. Otherwise, they were hitherto living under the false class consciousness. Now they've got this. Otherwise, maybe at the end of, the working tenure, you might be aware. So this particular alienation may occur at 4 levels. From the product, because you don't get part of the produce. But of course, in the agriculture areas, rural areas, they are paid in kind. But some, the areas, they are given cash also. And you don't know what's happening. You don't know the overall process. Finally, you get alienated. You don't believe anybody because out of frustration. And that ultimately, you got strong, the hate towards the community. You feel as if, the community, the whole world is bad, this talk. You became part of blaming game. Otherwise, you got, that several complaints against society. Of course, that you feel everybody, trying to, that exploit you. That notion, of course, that's what, that another Arandavangannuku irundadallam pei. There is, that a slogan, the guy got frustrated, for him, everything, looks ugly. The cheater, it looks like cheater world, that way. Because full of negativity, of course, he witnessed, he gone to that extent, of course, ladies and gentlemen. So, extreme division of labor, too much of specialization. Of course, division of labor leads to specialization to make, fantastic product. But you are unable to understand that extreme division of labor. Otherwise, you feel isolated. You don't know, what's happening, the overall process. You can't comprehend otherwise. The worker in that world, what happens now? So the management says, hey, even if you go, there will be someone replacing here. So what? You are always replaceable. That is what management's notion about worker. So worker becomes, that yet another mere cog on a machine. The simple lid. Even if you are not there, the factory will run. Don't worry. Otherwise, you'll go for automation. They may think that way. Of course, that you are not given proper respect. You are not much celebrated worker. Otherwise, the management says you are always replaceable. It's that way. So extreme division of labor makes him to feel that way. A mere cog on a machine. Nothing else. A redundancy. You can be omitted without affecting the importance of the organization. It's that way. We are talking that way, because he's not adding value, contributing. It's not a wholehearted contribution. They've got their own justification. Maybe this guy thinking that he is not properly paid. That way. We're talking about that way, ladies and gentlemen. So the process of objectification, what happened, right? The human beings are treated like a commodity. The world of, that exploitation, the process of objectification, we're talking about under specific historical circumstances of capitalism. So, that you become, the process of objectivation, you treat like your object, otherwise, that you feel as if, that you are frustrated, otherwise state of aloofness, self estrangement, because you're treated like a commodity, not with proper human respect. That way, use and throw, because that's what I used to say. What happened, it is unfortunate nowadays, that we started, that respecting things, and we started using human beings. That's very bad. Human beings are treated like things. Things are respected like human beings. Though, that the Immanuel Kant, who says, the categorical imperatives, all human beings should be treated as, the ends, but we treat them as means. Here, workers, the capitalistic, that industrial society, of course, that inhuman working condition, extreme division of labor, and heavy exploitation. They're treated like a commodity, treated like a things. Otherwise, let me put this way: you will come to know, that the skill with things are replaced by skill with people. If you go to, that some marriage reception hall, they don't nowadays, the people are quite busy. They're not interested in greeting everything, calling everything. They don't, because liberal value system. Even if you go to their function, nobody will be there in the reception. They'll be somewhere. Otherwise, there are no people. People are not interested. What happened, right? Over the days, they started, they putting one doll, one beautiful doll will be sitting. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. You'll be doing welcome, sir. Welcome. That's what you do in the reception post. People in the reception, star hotel, welcome, sir. The moment the guy passes, what this fool looking like? Oh, double standards. But in the beginning, the receptionist will say, welcome, sir. You are forced to work against your will. Ultimately, you are getting objectified. You are not yourself. That's what marketing, the tertiary sector creating a lot of marketing personality. We are talking that way. So the process of objectification, that under historical circumstances of the capitalism, you're treated like a commodity. In the process of objectification, you are almost treated like an object. Otherwise, that in the process of objectification, you feel this state of aloofness, self-estrangement. Otherwise, excessive production and commodity fetishism. Nowadays, the people, what happened, right? Instead of worshipping, that the God, they started worshipping commodity. What meant? Oh my God, please pray with, they bless me with Rolls Royce. Bless me with, that one, because I hear some, the politicians earn 1 lakh crores. Bless me with, because in the old politicians, of course, the ex-chief ministers in Tamil Nadu, that of course we are talking about, the combined property of, people say, the 3 lakh crores, 4 lakh crores. What's this here? The Tamil Nadu government's external debt is almost 5 lakh crores. The same equivalent amount, that's swindled by, that some politicians. What's happening here? Oh my God. The people started worshipping in front of God. Oh my God, I want to have, 4 lakh crores. Not 4 crores, 4 lakh crores. Rolls Royce. People started worshipping, the commodity. People started worshipping, Kasedan, Kadavulappa, Kadavulukum, Adu Terimappa. There is a song in Tamil, old song. Because, that connects new songs, that nothing connects with subject. I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry. But only old songs, but you may not be knowing, let me. That you worship, that the money is God. Money is God. You worship, that it's the commodity fetishism. Fetishism, that you worship, that a particular commodity as if it has got spirit in that. That's what we do even on those, that Navaratri days, that in Ahmedabad, I see. But here, Lakshmi Puja, Saraswati Puja, you worship. It's a thanksgiving, show gratitude. That's different story. But you worship product only for the sake of its own usefulness. You worship commodity, but you don't respect, fellow human beings. That's different scene. The commodity fetishism. You worship commodity in the world of capitalist society, but you don't respect things. You worship things, you don't respect, human beings. Solution, command. That's what Karl Marx says. Communist society. The establishment of classless communist society by revolution. உழைக்கும் தோடர்களே ஒன்று கூடுங்கள். I think I would have told you already. நீங்க நல்லா இருக்கோணும் நாடு முன்னேற. There is a song, film song. உழைக்கும் தோழர்களே, all proletariats, unite together, come together. Let's face, the proletarian, clarion call to the proletarian revolution. Let's establish classless communist society. That's what the Karl Marx, that clarion call. The political goal of Marxism, the classless communist society where everything is for everyone. All resources are equally accessible to all, the members of society. But China is communist country, but that's not happening. You see the communist countries with classes. That's the criticism we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So in alienation, of course, what is the solution for this alienation? According to Karl Marx, the establishment of classless communist society. You might be aware. Let me take you to the next level. So where, that this particular notion of Karl Marx, you come to know his contribution, economic and philosophical manuscript, you come to know. So alienation may be described as a condition in which men are dominated by the forces of their own creation. You created the forces dominating you, the forces questioning you, who you are, which confront them, as alien powers. Now, dead labor, a commodity dominating the living laborers, proletariats, that way. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. You come to know, the Karl Marx detailed discussion analysis we are talking about. The criticisms, of course, the alienation may be the result of rationalized structure of bureaucracy in the modern industrial society. This is according to Max Weber. I used to tell this, iron cage trapped individuals. You are unable to move. According to that GO, according to this article, according to this schedule of the Constitution, according to this amendment, according to that particular Supreme Court, the judgment, according to the committee commission recommendation, you got variety of limitations. That's why, that even the world of ethics and integrity, I used to say ethics is more than law. Because, the limitations, the rigidity, inflexibility on the part of the law. Otherwise, you would have watched a movie called Ramana. In Tamil, it's called Ramana. Tagore, Gabbar Singh, I think. Gabbar Singh, Tagore. How the India against corruption movement, that the whole bureaucratic setup, that they were talking about, the hierarchy, the rules and regulation, that a driver police constable, that a driver will crack the entire case. But bureaucracy is unable to deal with those experts. A newly appointed, that the police officer will understand his ability and he will become one day driver for that particular PC. That happens, you might be aware. How the bureaucracy is always, full of, the rules Ramanujams or hierarchy, unable to deal with pragmatic situation, unable to deal with experts. That's what, the Max Weber says. The people become iron cage trapped individuals, according to. So though, that the modern industrial advanced society, that needed, the bureaucracy, but Max Weber himself says the alienation, not only because of economic exploitation, maybe, the rationalized structure of bureaucracy also alienates you. You get alienated because of that, continuously. You become rules Ramanujam, everything. Sattanathan, we call that way also, ladies and gentlemen. So work come leisure. What happened, right? Stupefaction, the drudgery bottom. Work leisure, work leisure, work leisure. That's what, the great people will think about, plan for 3 generations. The normal guy will think about, will plan for Saturday night. That's the saying. Do you understand what I'm talking about? The work for, the 5 days or 6 days a week, and come on, the gala on the weekend, and that next work for 6 days, gala weekend. Work for 6 days, gala weekend. So work leisure, party, eat, pray, love, eat, pray, love. Work come, it is that way. Work come leisure culture we are talking about. Herbert Marcuse. That also leads to alienation. Herbert Marcuse talks about this. The drudgery, that becomes drudgery. The boredom, the stereotypes. People become stereotypes. Creativity will die in them. So that's why I don't know, that I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen. For every 3 years once, I want to try new. I'm talking, profession, whatever, not in. So that's different scenario. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to try new things in the world. So, otherwise, it should excite me. That's important. Either it should change place, or change what I do, or change the mode of what I do, or change the subject. And maybe, maybe, I don't know. Otherwise, it won't keep you alive. That's important. We're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So the growth of tertiary service sector. That's what I'm talking about. Modern industrial advanced society, knowledge-based society. You see, tertiary service sector, primary sector agriculture, secondary sector, you might be aware, the very industry. tertiary sector, service sector we are talking about. You might be aware. We are talking about that. So where the modern industrial society is where results in alienation. Give me 1 minute. Good enough. Yes. So what happened, right? The tertiary service sector, modern industrial societies results in the alienation among white collar workers. Got the point now? White collar workers and producing market personalities, especially receptionists or marketing executives. You might be aware. You know that they speak like that some stereotype mechanism, or that some automated machines like yes sir, yes sir. Otherwise, while speaking, smile. You understand what I'm talking about? It is artificial smile. The real smile will be long lasting. But artificial smile, yes, sir. I don't know how. It's almost like acting field. Huh? So some actors used to say that if you say if you ask me to smile, we say weep, they'll weep. After 100 films, they'll be like that. In the real life, you see people like that. So they are not. So what happened ultimately? That you are not yourself. You're working for somebody else. All your emotions are now sold. Oh my God, it is that way. So of course, you see, that the people like them in tertiary service sector, modern industrial advanced societies, of course, that is German, it is that way. So you are not yourself. The skill with things are, that ultimately replaced by skill with persons. So what a marketing personality. So that's what that C.W. Mills, C. Wright Mills talks about all these things. It is he who introduced, you might be aware, sociology in American, the world, you might be aware. So not only that, so decomposition of alienation. You may not be knowing what is exactly alienation. Otherwise, you'll talk about manifestations of alienation. Maybe that you say powerlessness, isolation, normlessness, self-estrangement, meaninglessness, like that. You got different. I don't know how to tell, but I don't feel good in that way. Maybe that you are upset, mood, you feel frustrated, you got great angry hatred against it that way. So a manifestation of the similar concept alienation in different forms we are talking about. As we say, truth is same, but manifestations are similar. Manifestations are different, same way. Alienation in different, the decomposition we are talking about. Not only that, so the measurement of alienation in terms of attitude, one person tried Steinman in terms of that attitude. He measured attitude scale. That was even sometimes the routine work, continuous work now, the pressure. I think I don't know whether you heard this story or not. One guy in Chennai IT company, and he wasn't given proper that holidays, rest by the project manager. It seems that guy was TL. I don't know. It's I don't like to tell the names of the brands of the company, brand name of the company, but that guy one day fine morning, what happened? Unable to withstand the pressures of the job. So in the big hall there were 1,000 people. That sitting in the hall working simultaneously. This guy came and that came out, couldn't control the frustration, and started shouting at his own the very project manager. The whole hall looking at. He shouted with all full bad words of local language. Ultimately, he lost his consciousness, fell down. He was taken to the hospital by ambulance immediately. So ultimately, the doctor said, at least very fortunate, this guy, that went out his anger. Otherwise, he would have died. The brain, the veins, the blood would have bursted. That's what doctors opinion. The good thing, he shouted at the project manager. He did something, vented out feeling. Now he's okay. So ultimately, management took, that some action against that project manager. So for the ill treatment of that work, and all these things we are talking about. So the attitudinal changes, through which you can come to know how the people are, that alienated that way. So that's devised by Seaman. Are you okay? Physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. You have to talk all those. Nowadays, when you are talking to people, because financially well off, that guy may not be, that physically well off, may not be physically well off. Financially, physically okay, but mentally he may not be well off. Or some guys, without emotion, don't know how to handle emotion, emotional intelligence, shouting, that at everybody. It is that way. All those things, maybe variety of things. It's up to you, ladies and gentlemen. So role of alienation has been exaggerated. There comes another, of course, German Francis Abraham, main currents in sociological thought. You might be aware of this book, Francis Abraham, J.H. Morgan. The role of alienation has been exaggerated. That's according to them, because modern day world, you got that the management discussing with workers. There is a Japanese management. They keep one doll in front of the company. If workers are not happy about the management, they will cut parts. Dismemberment will be done. This is that maybe part of the body, maybe cut the doll. Ultimately, the management listens immediately, arranges the meeting with trade unions, understands the situation, trying to address the grievances, and also that labor ministry you got, and we listen to the guidelines of International Labor Organization, and the variety of under CSR, variety of welfare measures carried out. You might be aware. I don't think that nowadays it's not people that keep on that working for a company, and that attrition rate is more. They know that there are guys sir, I'm going to resign. How? You are yet to given job. Yeah, sir, I'm going to resign. There are guys like that. That I know that in a year there are guys that keep on changing 3 jobs and all. You won't not same job, keep on changing different jobs. There are guys want to try like that. At least for me, I settle with that things for 3 years, but it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. They want to try new. They don't settle with routine. It is that way, maybe. So how come you can talk about alienation in them? So, rather, company is worried about those guys. They don't have passions or longevity wherever they go. They don't sustain anywhere. So the company has to worry about those guys. They never stay. That how come you can talk about alienation for them? And you got variety of choices. That you can choose your profession nowadays. Even parents never force the kids because they won't listen. That's important. Do whatever you want to do, but do it wholeheartedly, because nowadays you also say the kids not even understanding what do they want to know. What do they want? First of all, they lack clarity. It's getting simply influenced everywhere. So that also demands maturity. It's not blaming them. Of course, it's age. Only the time is the solution. That will give them the passions, everything. That they don't know the clarity about what they really want. That liking everything, whatever they see. These are all the things we come to know. That whatever maybe they get influenced. That happens. That's different scenario. I'm talking about, in terms of profession, in terms of, products, consumer durables, not in another sense. Okay. A role of allocation has been exaggerated, that we are talking about. So you got variety of choices, where is the role of, the alienation? We are talking that way, ladies and gentlemen. So alienation versus technology. When the technology is at the peak level, we are talking about, the level of alienation will be at the peak level. When you are, the beginning of, the technology, or when you are capable of controlling technology, alienation will come down. It is that way. So there comes, the diagram. This is according to Robert Bloner. We are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So this is very critical evaluation, of course, that the critical assessment about the alienation, the contribution of, the Karl Marx, that belongs to, the exploitative capitalist society, and the extreme division of labor in human working conditions. The alienation occurs at the process, product, and himself and community. We spoke at length. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time. Let me take you to, of course, what is that? The third question. Analyze. Now you have been asked to analyze. Let me repeat. What is that? We are using the formula TAT. TAT. What is that TAT? Question is no more question. So you are asked to, that you locate one particular topic. For every topic, there will be multiple aspects, but this particular question is centered around this particular topic. Then finally, what you are asked to do with that particular question, that's called task. The question is no more question. It's called TAT. Use this formula. This is smart and effective solution. You stay with that what is demanded out of UPSC. You stay with the spirit or expectations of UPSC, so that you get more score. And also that the word economy, time management, space management, everything. The thumb rule also be spoke in the beginning. What is that? For every 1 mark, you are supposed to write 15 to 20 words. That too within 1 minute. You are supposed to deliver. You understand? 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. You can also refresh yourself, please. Yes. Right. So analyze the relevance of pattern variables. This is area of Talcott Parsons, modern structural functionalism. Especially the American structural functionalism we are talking about. the study of social change, linking with this is the topic, and that linking with aspects, study of social change, because the pattern variables all about the choices you get, in the society. Whenever you are perplexed, you are guided by that pattern variables, or it may be in this way. ADQ, let me repeat once again. ADQ Yes, this is the code I give you. Affectivity versus affective neutrality, diffusiveness versus specificity, quality versus performance, otherwise ascription versus achievement, particularism versus universalism, self-orientation versus collective orientation. This is what pattern variables. Whenever you are perplexed, that you got choices, you are guided. The way with which you, it's almost like paradigm shift. You move from one pattern to another pattern, one model to another model, one paradigm to another paradigm. This is otherwise called social change. Monarchy to democracy. Otherwise, that industrial society to that the post-industrial society, knowledge-based society. It's that way. From IQ to EQ, it is that way. So paradigm shift we are talking about that way. So that you choose, the choices will decide. The choices, this paradigm shift what we are talking about, leading to change in society structurally, culturally, functionally, we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, you are asked to analyze. That is the task we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the right time. Let me take you to the final question of the today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you mean by analyze? This is the code. This is the task. You're asked to analyze. What do you mean by analyze? Because so that essay question or topic question, that you're elaborating your answer, subjective type. Of course, that the optional, especially sociology, that ask you to analyze. You're going to analyze a particular topic or argument. Expect that through thorough deconstruction of that the very essays. You're going to analyze. பகுப்பாய்வு in Tamil. Postmortem you're going to do that way. அக்கு வேற ஆணி வேற பிரிச்சு போட்டு மேயுது. This is what in Tamil people say, that it's almost like that way, that detailed, that the deconstruction of each and every part. Ultimately you analyze the parts contribution to the whole, what way parts are related, the purpose of each and every part. So it is that, in other words, this word requires you to break the topic down into fundamental parts. Of course, that you go for segmentalization, dividing the whole into parts and analyzing the connectivity, the relationship among the parts in making the whole. So the parts contribution to the whole is more than its parts. The whole, you can't find the whole without the contribution from the parts. So segmentalization and analyzing the relationship. So once you have done this, it is also important that you critically examine each part. Got the idea? Analysis, you do each and every the part is critically examined in such a way. We are talking about the critically examine also a separate topic, a separate task in some other questions you might be aware. So you need to use important that debates and evidences to look into that in what way you can do. It's up to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is right time. That information is enough when it comes to analyze. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, let us get into the question. What is that? So that asking you to analyze. What is the point? So the role of pattern variables vis-a-vis social change. You are asked to analyze. We are talking about. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So role performance. So what happened, right? This is according to that the very Talcott Parsons we are talking about, the founder of the American structural functionalists we are talking about. When social system meets social action, the point of intersection, your role is born. Okay, what I'm talking. When social system meets social action, because you might be knowing that all individuals are goal oriented. When they are oriented towards a particular goal, you might be aware that the situational constraints, the value orientation, motivational orientation, you would have seen all those things. We are talking about that it is that way that we spoke already. The social system, the structure theory we are talking about, everything social system theory we are talking about, it is that way. So voluntaristic theory of social action, you would have spoken. Ultimately, the role is the basic unit of social system. This is according to, of course, agile model. The adaptation, goal attainment, integration, latency. Each and every society has got its own basic prerequisite. Otherwise, they can't survive. Almost what you talk about, roti kapda makan, basic amenities. So according to that the very the Talcott Parsons German structural functionalism, the modern structural functionalism, the American structural functionalism, of course, whose dissertation the member, of course, Robert K. Merton also, that took this to the next level. You might be aware. It's a shift from traditional structural functionalism to modern structural functionalism, that to modern American structural functionalism you are talking about. So, that the very Talcott Parson talks about, role performance. When you try to, that perform a particular role, definitely you will witness some sort of strains, tension, the situational constraints, where you get perplexed. What path should I take? Of course, that depends on the way with which you are institutionalized and the way with which you internalize the value system. You are guided by the value system. Even in the ethics, this is what we are emphasizing: ethics and integrity, the ethical dilemma, conflict of interest, situational constraints, same way Talcott Parsons talking about it. The way with which you have been institutionalized, you're guided, the way with which that you observed, you took in the value system got inculcated in you. Not only that, you internalize the value system and of that particular role expectation. So to that extent, that you will witness strain or tension while you are discharging your duties. That while you are performing your that role, because first of all you have to understand what is status, what is role. Status is the static aspect. Status in its dynamism is called role. Status talks about positional aspect. Teacher is a status. As a teacher, you are supposed to teach. That's role. Doctor is a status. As a doctor, you are supposed to cure your passion. That's role. Lawyer status. As a lawyer, you are supposed to lie. Is it so? You call professional dharma. Maybe that's role. I don't know, because maybe even Ramjet Malani he used to say that way. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So role performance we are talking about depends on that institutionalization, internalization, whether you witness a smooth performance or strain or crisis. Of course, there you are guided by this pattern variables we are talking about. There, what sort of situation you witness, situational dilemmas, or maybe one opposing another, either to choose this or that. So that's what now happening in India. So the government thinking about liberalization of agriculture sector. So that that agriculture becomes profitable venture like that, that by roping in private investor. But what happened ultimately? The agriculture laws ultimately the strong opposition from small and marginal community. So liberalization of agriculture sector versus protecting that small and marginal farmers, one opposing another, dichotomous. So dichotomies we are talking about, the choices or choice of alternatives we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen, that way. So according to Parsons, ladies and gentlemen, the pattern variables provide overall direction. Pattern variables provide overall direction, which path you have to travel, what course of action you have to choose, resort to. You are guided that way. So according to Parsons, pattern variables provide overall direction in which most of the members of social system, they choose their roles. Accordingly, you choose roles. Dr. Kalam, from teacher to the president of India, from scientist to the president of India. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, of course, from teacher to that way, president of India. A chaiwala could become prime minister of India. It is that way. You choose. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to India. Of course, India, a land of wonderful possibilities we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, if you are determined, you can do anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, according to Parsons, pattern variables provide overall direction, that in which most of the members of social, you are directed, you are guided. That's what happens in ethics. You are guided by the value system. But of course, in the world of sociology, the Talcott Parsons, modern structural functionalism, modern American structural functionalists say, Talcott Parsons says, you're guided by the pattern variables. What are all those we are going to see? So there are 5 in numbers. As I said, ADQPS. I gave you the code. First one, whether to be emotional or emotionally neutral. To be emotional, in family you can be emotional, but that when you go home, you take your heart. When you go out of your home, take your brain with you. But in life, there should be a perfect balance between brain and heart. That's different. But of course, that there comes situation either to speak in favor of affectivity or affective neutrality. So it's almost like mother-child relationship, affectivity, emotional. Doctor-patient relationship is not that it is the doctor-patient I'm talking about. I'm not talking about doctor's family. Hello, doctor-patient relationship is affective neutrality. Got the idea, na? So you should know what is the, it is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to the next level. So diffusiveness versus specificity. When you go to doctor, you speak only, about your personal, health related aspects. It's not speaking with them, that, what happened, no, this, Republic Day parade, no, that happened, no, agriculture law, no, what happened, the Banana Republic moment in US, no, what happened to that girl, no, it's not gossiping. It's not speaking, the 360-degree angle with doctor. It's specific. That the very doctor-patient relationship is specific. But whereas, with your, that loved ones, of course, that the family members, of course, that you speak in such a way, diffusiveness, end to end you talk. So based on the scope or nature of social interaction, so whether it is specific or diffuse, you choose accordingly. Doctor patient, specificity. Buyer seller, you speak, specificity. The family and friendship, of course, diffusiveness, broad based. We're talking about that way. Ladies and gentlemen, particularism versus universalism. Whether you take particular value system or universal value system, the particular value system, maybe, that you favor only your kinship relationship. You favor only your own, that nepotism or favoritism, the friendship. That otherwise, that is it meritocracy is your choice. Or maybe with caliber, let them be appointed there. It's that way. Whether you go for, universal liberal values, or go for, it's restricted to Indians alone, restricted to this particular religion, restricted to this particular language, this particular caste or subcaste or region, that's particularism. You understand this way, it is that way. So, that only Indians can become, that occupy the high post, the Prime Minister of India. Of course, Sonia Gandhi was deprived because of, that Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, when Dr. Kalam was the President of India, what happened? You might be aware. Only Indian can become, that to that, the Prime Minister, the politics, what happened. It's that way. So, that in United States of America, that what happened? Only American can become President of USA. POTUS, how come? So that demands its own modalities we are talking about. It is that way. So, you may differ from my point of view. It's up to you. Of course, we are talking about what happened in India. Whether you speak in favor of particularism or universalism, anybody, will, there comes, totally different arguments, of course. Whether to speak in favor of ascription or achievement, status given to you or status you earned in your lifetime, or do you accord status, that the ascriptive quality, you go with ascriptive status or achieved status, you go this way. Maybe, that your caste, your something you are given, you go, you take that affiliation, otherwise, something you earn in your lifetime by application of your energy, maybe health, wealth, knowledge, that way. That's achievement status we are talking about. Is that way, ladies and gentlemen? So whether you speak in favor of, for your, whether you are talking for your own welfare or collective welfare or altruism, selfish motive versus altruism, self-expediency versus altruism, that it is that way, the self-orientation versus collective orientation. So self-gratification versus collectivism, whatever you do, it is that way. You got dilemmas, either to choose this or that. You are guided by the set of, the very pattern variables. This is according to the very Talcott Parsons we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the right time. I think, you got enough. Let me go back, visit the question, of course. I think you got the idea. What is that? You analyze, you take into part by part, analyze, and detailed analysis. Post-mortem you do. That's what analysis we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I think, that I would have made your time worthwhile. You would have benefited. The smart solution, of course, question is no more question. It's called TAT. The topic and aspect of the topic, and task what you are going to do with that topic. I think that's fantastic, that you should stick around this principle, the thumb rule we are talking about. And also you can practice that way, ladies and gentlemen. So what are all the materials can be consulted? I took only 3 questions meant for, mains 2020. Probably for these questions, you rely on IGNO materials, Francis Abraham. Of course, that I think that's more than sufficient. We are talking about Douglas Goodman available. It's up to you. And also, that the basic things NCERT, but here, that you stay with IGNO materials. IGNO materials, Raymond Aron, not only Raymond Aron, Francis Abraham, main currents in sociological thought, and also, the Douglas Goodman. I think, that it is that way. You can, that consult to benefit more, ladies and gentlemen. Those sources will be more helpful for you to, the benefit more. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, not only that, you please watch all my previous videos. Already I discussed some of the topics that may benefit you. You can take notes whenever you sit in front of my session. Please sit with paper and pen, take notes parallelly, so it's that way you benefit more. Then, this is my humble attempt, ladies and gentlemen. This becomes your foundation. You can build your superstructure based on that. That is my humble attempt. Of course, smart and effective solution. Let me repeat once again. Question is no more question. Keep this formula in mind. Tat. Stick to this formula. Deliver accordingly. You got word management, word economy, time management, space management, everything that demands, that expects you to plan before your delivery. That is that way. The thumb rule: within 1 minute, you are supposed to write 15 to 20 words. You understand, ladies and gentlemen, for 1 mark. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. This is right time. Of course, you know that. Welcome to Unacademy once again. This is Success Sampath. Here to interact with you, ladies and gentlemen. You would have, that you can use my referral ID, say Success, to avail maximum 10% discount. I told you already, it is empire building process. Great things will take time. Please go for iconic program. You will be allotted a personal coach to take care of you, to understand your nature, and to train you on everyday basis in terms of answer writing exercises like this. Please use my referral ID. Let me say once again, this is Success Sampath. Here to interact with you. Use my referral ID, say Success, to avail 10% discount. Please watch all my videos already part of Unacademy YouTube channel. Even by downloading, the app, you get variety of videos. That whether it is prelims MCQ questions, variety of segments on the part of GS mains, or even optional, say sociology, ethics and integrity, essay paper, topics of that of course that international relations, ladies and gentlemen. Try to attend and benefit it more. And that let's meet tomorrow same time, 5 to 8, with another topic, so that you benefit more. Ladies and gentlemen, let me repeat once again. I hope with the blessings of God, I would have done humble attempt to make your time worthwhile. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your passions and your involvement. Of course, let's meet tomorrow same time. This is Success Sampath signing off from you. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Oh my God.